afternoon to you. 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're having a good afternoon. Louis Riddick, former NFL front office type, with his thoughts on how the Browns will handle their quarterback competitions from NFL Live on ESPN.
Look, it's really going to be all about rep efficiency, right? As a player, that's what you're looking for. As a coach, that's what you're looking for. Meaning, look, everyone's not going to get equal reps. Everyone's not going to get the same amount of reps, exposed to the same looks, get the same number of throws in each period, whether it be first down, second down, third down, red area 2 minute. But it's about the efficiency. It's about having as close to perfect reps as possible. And then it's up to Kevin Stefanski. And then I think it's important for Kevin Stefanski to move this around from day to day, from practice to practice, to make sure, as he just said, make sure all these guys, though, are exposed to the situations that he needs to expose them to, so he can then make a real organic decision about who's the best guy, so it's truly a meritocracy. You want to make sure that in the end is what comes out of this, and that you're not stacking the deck in one guy's favor over another, which we've seen coaches do now, because they're human beings, and they want certain guys to excel based upon their own convictions going into it. And we've seen that mess things up in the history, and we'll see it mess things up going forward.
And again, very beginning of the process, they're still not even in shells. They're in shorts, so we'll see. Jeremy Fowler, also ESPN, this is from ESPN Cleveland. His thoughts on who the Browns' starting quarterback will be.
I expect Joe Flacco to be, sort of the first guy up and running, so to speak. I would be at least mildly surprised if he's not the starter, at least going into training camp and to see how things go. They know they have developmental pieces in place. Like, there's not a lot of pressure to have to play Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders.
And again, we'll find out how that unfolds moving forward. Shedeur Sanders was asked about the Browns quarterback room. What's it like?
Quarterback room is fun. Every day is fun going in there. Everything is real good. I'm happy. Well, you got a bunch of different personalities in the quarterback room, so that's what it is. And just getting to talk to the quarterbacks that took NFL snaps, that played in the league. So you live in the experience through them also, and ask them whatever question come to mind.
ESPN's Bill Barnwell with his Browns off-season superlatives.
The Cleveland Browns are most likely to pepper the wall and hope something sticks. No surprise they went after a quarterback during this offseason with Deshaun Watson injured. Maybe a surprise they added 4 quarterbacks to the mix in Cleveland. I would leave the quarterbacks aside and focus on the running game for the Cleveland Browns and Kevin Stefanski. Do they want to be an under-center, heavy play action team? That might lean towards Joe Flacco. Do they want to be a shotgun team, spread the field, maybe use more RPOs? That could lead to more Dylan Gabriel possibly as their quarterback. Lots of options, not necessarily you feel all that great about heading into 2025.
Well, the question becomes, what's the scheme? And that's what some of the national people are not paying attention to, is what scheme the Browns will run offensively. Well, congratulations are in order. Frequent guest on our show, Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter, is this year's Bill Nunn Jr. Award winner. It's given to the NFL reporter who's made long and distinguished contributions to pro football through the coverage. Mary Kay will be honored at this year's Hall of Fame Gold Jacket dinner that honors the enshrinees to the Hall of Fame. We'll have her name with all of the Bill Nunn Award winners that will be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton. Congratulations to the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com's Mary Kay Cabot, a well-deserved honor. Let's turn our attention to the Guardians. The right field situation, it's been a struggle for the Guardians to figure it out. Guardians reporter Andre Knott with his thoughts.
Chase DeLauder is another name to pay attention to because of his injury history, because of his talent, because of the black hole that we've had in right field. Don't be surprised if Chase DeLauder can make it 3 weeks, a month in Columbus healthy. He's going to be here. Same with Kafis. I've talked about CJ Kafis a little bit. He's a little bit younger, and he's a little bit, he's not as high on the radar, but he can swing the damn bat. He had like 313 in Akron this year, and then he moved up to Columbus, and he's hitting 330. He was originally a first baseman. They've moved him to right field. I guess what I'm saying is they're going to be aggressive in trying to figure out this right field.
Guardians with a day off today. They'll have a 3-game series beginning tomorrow with the Angels. We'll have Paul Hoynes, the beat reporter for the Guardians for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. A little bit later in the show, we'll talk plenty of Guardians. Browns are up first. We're going to take a quick timeout here on Sports4CLE. Other side of the break, we head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We begin by talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
I can't believe the biased reporting that we're getting regarding Sanders. They're saying that everybody is equal, it's nobody that's showing out. And when you get the reports from ESPN and all the other establishments, they're showing that Sanders yesterday completed 7 out of 9 passes, had 3 touchdown passes in the red zone and no interceptions. And the other quarterbacks are completing 9 out of 16, not completing passes, throwing interceptions, not having any touchdowns at all. So what is the answer? Our local reporters are not reporting this equally. Thank you. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. So this is from ESPN Cleveland. Now, the one thing that I would say, let's welcome in Quincy Carrier, Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage. Quincy, when you're reporting things from OTAs, if this was a car race, they would just be getting onto the track, getting into the cars. They're not even driving around the track yet. So the reason people aren't reporting it is it doesn't mean anything at this point. They're in shorts.
People are trying to give grades out for OTAs. And here's the truth about OTAs. It's pass-fail. Right? Like, there's no grade. Nobody aces OTAs. I mean, like, you can ace OTAs, but it doesn't mean anything, right? Like, the number of receivers we have heard over the years, oh my God, he looks amazing in OTA. It does not matter because you can't even do team drills. Like, you can't really do a real active team period in OTAs. You're less limited in rookie camp than you are in this portion of OTAs. And yeah, like bringing up standard stats in OTAs, there's a lot of context too that gets left out when you just post the stats like this, right? Because Shedor's taking the 4th reps, right? So that means he's probably going up against UDFA guys or guys at the bottom of the roster. And you would expect Shedor Sanders to look good against UDFA guys. You know, these guys in college football last year that aren't superstars, that's basically what he played against last year. Meanwhile, Joe Flacco's reps, Kenny Pickett's reps might be against what is one of the best defenses in the NFL. So what are we doing here, y'all?
Right.
I really gotta ask.
Here, let me say this. I hope Shedeur Sanders is as good as everybody that likes him a lot wants him to be. I just want the Browns to get a good quarterback. If it's Shedeur Sanders, great. If it's Kenny Pickett, great. If it's don't care. Give me competent quarterback play because that will equal wins.
I agree. Like, all we want is the Browns to not be desperate going into next year at the quarterback situation is my goal for the season, right? And I don't really care who that is. I would prefer somebody on a rookie deal do it, but other than that, like, I really have no preference. If it's Dylan Gabriel, if it's Shedeur Sanders, whichever one gets us out of a less desperate place, I'm all for it, but we got to stop acting like we're going to figure that out when these guys are in shorts and a t-shirt. And let's be real here. Even in training camp, in preseason, when you are playing football, there's a chance that you could see something that's not really there. Because didn't we go through this with Dorian Thompson-Robinson literally like last year?
Yep, I agree. And you know, more will come out in the joint practice. You'll learn more in the joint practices than you will the preseason games because they're playing a little bit harder. They're not as worried about getting hurt. They're not giving you vanilla coverage. There's so many things that go into a rookie in particular. So, I hope Shedeur Sanders lives up to what everybody thought was the best quarterback in this draft. If he does, Browns are in a good spot.
And here's my whole thing on why I'm cautioning this, right? Because people will call me a Shedeur hater because I'm not riding with the train here. Because I don't think this is going to be good for Shedeur in the long run, right? If people just hype him up based off of minicamp practices, if he inevitably struggles once this whole thing becomes live, which most quarterbacks are going to do. CJ Stroud had a pretty bad preseason, right? Like, most guys are going to struggle once this becomes live, once he doesn't have a red jersey on, once he becomes somebody who can get tackled. They're going to struggle. It's a bit of adjustment in the NFL, and people aren't going to give him grace because of all this stuff people did to put him on a pedestal before he really suited up for the first time in the NFL. This might be a scenario where Shedeur Sanders might play in the first few games he plays. He doesn't look good, right? Like, it couldn't happen like this. Rookie quarterbacks don't just immediately step into the NFL game and play well. So if you do really, like, if this caller seems like he wants Shedeur to have a fair shot, if you truly do want Shedeur to have a fair shot, hyping him up in mini camps and OTAs, and I think a lot of the media understands this, is a surefire way to make sure that the second he struggles in anything that you would expect a rookie to struggle in, he's going to get 3 times the backlash on that than what a rookie should, because people were out here quoting mini camp stats. First week of mini camp. This is the most shameless behavior I've ever seen in rookie camp / mini camp.
Well, it shows you how desperate Browns folks are to find a quarterback that they can embrace. I know you've addressed this too. Why is it important to separate Shedeur's fame from his play?
Well, because there's going to be a lot of people who come here just for Shedeur, right? And those people might rub you the wrong way, right? But depending on how they go about this. And we have seen this phenomenon happen with Odell Beckham. We have seen this phenomenon happen with Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield, Johnny Manziel, where people come into a player with their personal opinions about who that player is, who they believe that player to be. And that kind of seeps into their judgment of that player's play on the field. I just want to be in a place where I'm not going to want Shedeur Sanders to succeed or fail just because I'm a fan of Shedeur Sanders. I want him to succeed or fail because of what his play dictates on the field, right? If he's playing good, I want the focus to be on that, at least for me, instead of, oh man, Shedeur fans are acting like this, or, Browns fans are acting like this towards Shedeur. So do we really even want it to work in Cleveland? Just all of that nonsense that we have seen get in the way of actually evaluating players as far as the public eye goes fairly. I want people to avoid. And the fact is that Shedeur Sanders isn't famous because Shedeur Sanders chose to be famous. Shedeur Sanders is famous because his father is Deion Sanders, and Deion Sanders is one of the most influential, famous athletes to have ever played a sport in the United States. And that, by proxy, means that a lot of people are going to care about what his kid is doing, especially if that kid is a quarterback. So you have to understand that a lot of these folks aren't even really here for Shedeur. They're just here to cape for the Sanders family. And it's important to not put that pressure that those folks might put on him on Shedeur if you're just rooting for him because your interests are about Shedeur Sanders exclusively and what he could provide to Cleveland Browns as a quarterback.
You know what else? He's likable. He comes off as likable. I hear the kid talking. He's just a likable kid. I agree. So expectations for Sanders and Gabriel. And again, I know you've addressed this on your show as well.
Yeah, I have low expectations. This is something I hit on earlier, right? I want to have low expectations for these guys, not because I think they're going to be awful. I don't know what these guys are going to be. I like Shedeur. I had Shedeur as a first round grade. Not necessarily somebody would take a 2, but definitely somebody that I thought made sense in the second round for the Cleveland Browns. So, like, I like Shador, obviously, more than where his draft selection is. I'm not the biggest fan of Dylan Gabriel, but I want these guys to be able to grow in the way the rookie quarterbacks are going to have to grow. I think Jaden Daniels and CJ Stroud and them having immediate MVP candidate level success year one has really skewed how people view development at the quarterback position. But the fact is that this is going to take time to figure out with Shador, with Dylan Gabriel. Most guys, it takes a couple of years. Go look at Jalen Hurts' stats when he first started playing his rookie year. He didn't necessarily blow the NFL away, right? It was a constant evolution over time because he was given that time. So I want to have low expectations for these guys to be able to give these guys more time to become who they are, because the higher the expectations are, the less patience people are going to have for regular rookie quarterback stuff that could happen to a rookie quarterback. So that's why I'm keeping my expectations low. If we're putting out, if we're trying to sell Dylan Gabriel as the savior or Shador Sanders as the savior, the second it becomes apparent that he's not ready to be that in year one, people are going to turn on him, right? So I think it's important just to understand these are 3rd and 5th round picks. They might not be the answer at quarterback. If they are, awesome. We can all be thrilled, but we really shouldn't put those expectations on these guys because it's just going to set them up to have a hostile relationship with the fan base.
So let's talk expectations for Joe Flacco, and do you think Kenny Pickett is kind of in the driver's seat for the quarterback battle?
It is interesting, right? Because I would have thought that they would have just slotted Joe Flacco in there. It seems like Kenny Pickett certainly believes he is in the driver's seat for this starting quarterback position, because Kenny Pickett has been walking around since he's been signed here as somebody who expects to be the starting quarterback. We'll see if that actually ends up being the case. I think they want Kenny Pickett to be the starter because Kenny Pickett is the one guy who you can foresee reasonably giving you 17 starts, right? And if I think Kevin at least wants that to be the case. Andrew might want to see other people play. Maybe he prefers Joe because he knows Joe's not going to play. That means more snaps for Dylan and Shador to figure out what they have, right? But if you're Kevin, you want somebody who you can just rely on to be the starter all year. You're not really thinking about what's going to happen next year when his contract is up. So I think that's what the coaching staff wants, is Kenny Pickett to take this job, because Kenny Pickett's the one person right now that it's reasonable to rely on for 17 games because he's been a starter for a full season before, and he's not 40 years old, right? Which is obviously the issue with Joe Flacco and why you couldn't expect 17 games out of him. So I think that's why it looks like they want Kenny to win this job. Whether Kenny seizes that opportunity or not, we will see. But I think that's what they're hoping for.
So, I'm curious as your opinion on this. Is there any way we see a Deshaun Watson return? Deshaun Watson, he's acting like he's coming back and plans on playing some this year. Is that in the cards, do you think?
I understand why Deshaun is doing that, right? But it's also important to remember, we thought Aaron Rodgers was going to come back super fast off that Achilles injury because he was throwing, like 2 months after he tore that Achilles, and everybody was like, oh my God, he's going to be there. He doesn't have a brace anymore. He's imminent to play, and it ended up being like 8-9 more months until he played again. The reality is that Deshaun Watson tore his Achilles twice this summer, and what that means is that his clear to play is probably going to be delayed, right? Like, he might be able to get to a certain point, but the fact is, the way that injury works, you need to get a level of flexibility in there, a level of comfort before you can play. And, Dave, we're also talking about an injury that even if he were cleared, you would probably want him to ramp up into team activities. And, it would be a 4 or 5 week process after he gets cleared to play. So I know what he's doing. He wants to show people that he's still working hard, that he hasn't given up. Also consider that Deshaun Watson's value to an NFL team is no longer going to be about what he can offer on the field. It's going to be more about what he can offer off the field as a mentor in a quarterback room, as somebody who can help enhance your team culture if you think Deshaun's capable of doing that. And part of that is not loafing on a injury return and getting rid of this stigma that he has, that he got this money and basically Buster Douglas out, right? So that's kind of, I think, the perception he's trying to battle for his future. But the reality is that he has such a long way to go, right? We're talking about 10 months after surgery for you can even really consider even clearing him for football activity. Honestly, since it's his second one, we're probably talking about 12 months, right? A full calendar year. That already takes you all the way to January. And then even if he was cleared in January, this isn't like Nick Chubb. What, he needed 3-4 weeks back? And that was a less severe injury with more time off than what Deshaun had. So, yeah, Deshaun's not going to play this year. I hate to break it to people. I know everybody's so heartbroken to find that one out. But, the reality is that in order for Deshaun Watson to return, there's a lot of dominoes that have to fall, and it won't catch us by surprise because, again, he's not just going to he's not going to come back from this Achilles injury, get cleared, suit up the next week. This is going to be a ramp up thing, right? Where he has to practice with the team and stretch and pass certain things. Like, he still has to go through rehab even after he's clear.
Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we continue talking Browns, talk a little bit about goals for the Browns offense in 2025. Sports for CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
At the Ohio Lottery, we make Keno fun your way. So go on, pick your wager. Will it be $1, $2, $10, or more? Your call. Then it's as easy as picking up to 10 numbers. Use any inspiration you like. You can even tag on the booster for a chance to boost your winnings up to 10 times. Every few minutes across Ohio, 20 out of 80 possible numbers are drawn. And if enough of yours match, you win. Keno is always fun your way.
We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier of Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage. So, Quincy, what do you think about kind of the feeling, the vibe around this team? You think it's better than it was last year, worse, about the same?
It feels lighter, doesn't it? Right? Like, it feels like guys are just kind of enjoying being in Berea. I mean, last year you had a lot of expectations draped on this team that they were clearly not in a place to maintain. They went 3-14 last year. And you can just tell that the Watson experiment, for whatever reason, was weighing on this team. I mean, you listen to Joe Bitonio talk, he sounds like a new young man, right? Like, he seems refreshed to get back out here. But you heard him talk last year, and, he was kind of just holding his tongue a lot. This team seems to have been re-energized by the mentality and the moves that the Browns have made, doubling down on what Kevin Stefanski's strengths are. It also tells you that they believe in Kevin Stefanski quite a lot, right? If doubling down on what your coach does well, it gets you excited. And it seems like they feel like they're going to have an identity again this year, right? Like, they want to play smash mouth defensive football. We saw that in the draft with the focus there. So, yeah, it does feel a lot better. Now, that doesn't mean that this team's going to be a surprise 11-win team or anything like that. The reality is that they're probably going to have a lot of offensive consistency issues because of how they want to play. And the margin of error on offense is going to be too low to win over 500% of your game, 500%, over 50% of your games. But I think we will enjoy this season much more than we did last year.
So, along that, 5 goals that the offense needs to reach in 2025. Again, this from your show.
Yes. One of the goals I think the offense needs to reach is we need to get over 2,000 rushing yards, right? If we're going to do this whole thing where we're going to run the ball again, we need to be successful running the ball. And, I understand it's 2 rookies. We're asking a lot out of 2 rookies and then 1 Jerome Ford more than likely. But, your run game needs to be able to combine no matter how it gets there. Probably not going to get a lot of contribution from the quarterback position this year to about 2,000 yards, right? You want to get good efficiency, over 4.5 yards a carry. You want this run game. It doesn't have to be the best run game in the NFL, but it does have to be reliable, and that's something the Browns have been missing out on, right? If you want to run the kind of offense that the Cleveland Browns run, you got to have a reliable run game. You got to have a reliable way to get ahead of the sticks on first down, you know?
Yeah, and the other one would be you can't turn the ball over like you have the last 2 years. That's been, even their playoff year, it was ugly.
You can't play low-yield football like the Browns are planning to do and make a ton of mistakes, right? Like, they're basically playing Pittsburgh Steelers ball. And the way Pittsburgh Steelers ball works is that they are making the bet that they're going to be more competent than the team across from them. What does more competent mean? We're not going to shoot ourselves in the foot. We're not going to get penalties that force punts, and we're not going to turn the football over, right? If you don't do those three things, you can have a successful season, especially considering what the expectations are if you're the Cleveland Browns. The problem with that is, like, at least Pittsburgh has like that track record of being able to do that, even though recently they haven't really been great at that. The Browns have to build that track record up.
So defensively, and again, from your, I'm curious your opinion on it. Are they building an elite defense that nobody's talking about? I would argue, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're building it too the way I love it. Like, if you know me, Dave, I love the trenches, right? I love interior defensive tackle play and edge play especially. And the Browns have done a great job of building this. You're talking about Mike Hall, who was your first pick last year, Mason Graham, your three technique. How many times have I been on this show over the last 5 years, Dave? And I've been like, we got to have a long-term solution at the three technique position. We got to stop doing these Band-Aid fixes, right? I've been on this show complaining about this for a long time, and they don't have Band-Aids there anymore. Those are real deal solutions. Number 5 pick in the draft, a second-round pick last year. You got Myles Garrett anchoring down the pass rush, and then you've also invested in a lot of edges over the year that can service that role, especially when you have that many three techniques to rely on, like Alex Wright, and also Isaiah McGuire. Now, here's the key to all of this. When you look at the best Jim Schwartz defenses, what's the common denominator between all of them? There is usually spectacular three-technique play, right? Because there's a lot of space in a wide nine. These guys are allowed to go uphill, right? We're talking about Ndamukong Suh. We're talking about Javon Hargraves. We're talking about, like, there's always a dominant three technique in a dominant Jim Schwartz defense, and there's always a dominant defensive line in a dominant Jim Schwartz defense. And now you have finally given Jim Schwartz the tools, and look at the linebacker room that you have behind him. I think that's the most underrated thing about this team. Now, JOK is not back. Oh, man, if JOK were still healthy, that would be one of the best linebacking rooms in football. But JOK is not going to be back this year. That's unfortunate. But you do have Jerome Baker. You have a veteran there. You have Jordan Hicks. You have Mahmoud Diabate. You drafted Carson Schlesinger. Bookie Watson is somebody who's getting lost in the shuffle here. Devin Bush was pretty good for you last year. And you have one of the best linebacker coaches in football in Jason Tarver leading the way. And then think about what that's going to mean for these linebackers when you have this defensive line that the Cleveland Browns have, and what that's going to unlock coverage-wise for the secondary, because you have 4 guys up front that you think can win. And if you have 4 guys who can win on the line of scrimmage, it becomes real easy to play linebacker. It becomes real easy to play defensive back. It becomes real easy to play safety, because you're just going to have the numbers advantages no matter where you are in the football field. And we saw what that can do to a team like Kansas City in the Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. So, yeah, I think people are looking at it, because the way the Browns have built this thing is just how I like it, right? It's not sexy. It's a lot of fat guys in there. I saw people fat shaming Mason Graham. We're not about to do that, right? Three techs can be fat like that. I like how Mason Graham, he's built like a 3 tech. So Mason Graham, it's not going, nobody's going to be like, oh my God, look at this guy, right? But if he's on, when you watch him on tape, Nick Saban has said, oh my goodness, look at 55 go, right? Like, that's what you want to see. It's not sexy how they've built it. There's not a lot of flashy pieces, but boy, these pieces they put in there are built to last. You're talking about 10 years of Mason Graham, Myles Garrett, Mike Hall, and if you can put that together for the next 10 years, you're probably going to have a pretty solid defense most of those years.
Before I let you go, did Andrew Berry pass the offseason test in your mind then?
Can't hate on it. He got the extra first without trading Miles, right? We were talking about that being one of the main things he needed to get was get that extra first round pick in 2026. Now he could have made some more flashy selections, right? We talk about the Travis Hunter thing. I think that would have got a lot more people excited, but effectively they got what they wanted out of Travis Hunter with the Travis Hunter trade. They got a first round pick next year. They got Mason Graham, a stopper on third down on defense, and then Quinshon Judkins, somebody who they think can get them a lot of third downs on offense, right? That's what we talked about. The main value of Travis Hunter being is that he could get you both those things in one pick. Well, you got both those things in one pick. You just had to trade the pick to get it. So I don't mind that. This football team has gotten larger, more physical. They've added a ton of physicality, a ton of guys in the front seven. Look, this is not the kind of offseason that people are going to do backflips about before, but I do think this tends to be a type of all season where people look at the season and go, oh man, we just feel like a much more tough team this year. We feel more physical. We're just a really annoying team to play for most NFL teams, and we're going to appreciate that. We're going to look back at this draft as one of the main reasons why.
Quincy Carrier is always great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Quincy.
Thank you. Quincy
Carrier, make sure you check him out. Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Spencer German from 92.3 The Fan straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
At the Ohio Lottery, we make Keno fun your way. So go on, pick your wager. Will it be $1, $2, $10, or more? Your call. Then it's as easy as picking up to 10 numbers. Use any inspiration you like. You can even tag on the booster for a chance to boost your winnings up to 10 times. Every few minutes across Ohio, 20 out of 80 possible numbers are drawn. And if enough of yours match, you win. Keno is always fun your way.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Booger McFarland from ESPN's NFL Live talking about his thoughts on the Browns quarterback room.
They got a lot of misfit toys in that room, man, and I get it. First of all, I love the honesty from Joe Flacco. His job is not to be the role model, the mentor. It's to come in there and be the veteran quarterback and try to bring some stability to their room. As far as the room in general, like Deshaun Watson, 2 Achilles surgeries, Flacco, Kenny Pickett with the 2 gloves, then you got the 2 rookies coming in with Sanders and Gabriel. I don't know what we're going to get from them. I don't think anybody with any sense knows what you're going to get from that room. I suspect at some point it's going to be Flacco or Kenny Pickett trying to figure out who's going to start, and then they're going to figure out with the young guys. I don't think Watson is going to be ready coming off not just 1, but 2 Achilles surgeries. So at some point, Lewis, like if you're really going to be honest about this room, they really don't know what they have in this room right now, and they got to hope that somebody steps forward, whether it's a young guy or one of the veterans that they have.
Let's welcome in Spencer German, 92.3 The Fan, Cleveland Browns on SI, Lockdown Browns podcast. Spencer, I would argue he's right, and that's why you bring in 4 quarterbacks, because it increases the odds one of them does step forward.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. It's supposed to be this open competition. It's supposed to be assessing like what you have. I do think there was maybe some surprise in drafting 2 rookies. I always thought that that could be a possibility for them. But you're sort of, going into this year hoping to learn something about both those guys. And I think you have the 2 veterans kind of in place to to give you some sense of stability, even though we can look at this room and say, well, there's not really a lot of stability when your quarterbacks are an aging veteran at 40, sort of failed first-round pick that's trying to revive his career, and then these two rookies that we have some questions about. But yeah, I'm a big proponent and a big subscriber to the idea that you take as many bites at the apple as possible, right? Like, until you have a quarterback, you try as many things out as you can. We know the Browns are in a very precarious situation because of the salary cap implications of the Deshaun Watson deal. And so they're trying to navigate that the best they can for at least a year. And we'll see what comes on the other side of this thing. And if they feel like they have a quarterback or not, then, they either draft one in 2026 or they ride it out with maybe one of these rookies if they shine. So yeah, you have a lot of questions to answer. I think that's fair. But I also think like that's not a surprise to anybody who's around this team regularly. And it's just kind of a wait and see game of who emerges from this group as the front runner.
So you were out at Berea OTAs that were open to the media yesterday. Takeaways from that?
Yeah, I think there's a few. Obviously, I know the quarterback competition is the thing everyone's paying the most attention to for obvious reasons. I think it was notable. I know Kevin, and I don't want to stoke a fire here or anything, because Kevin Stefanski continually tells us that there's no reason to read too much into reps and in order of the quarterbacks at this juncture of the offseason. They're like, for example, the rookies are only a month into being NFL players. Like they're still learning, and there's a lot that they're still going to learn. But the fact that Shedeur Sanders didn't take any first team reps, or I should say team reps in terms of the 11-on-11 stuff was I thought kind of interesting. I just think since he's gotten into the building, it's been this kind of, I think the organization is sending a little bit of a message that like he's going to have to earn it. And I think I think people see that as a negative thing when I say that, or when other people say that. But to me, it's actually a positive. Like Shedeur's embracing that. Like he's embraced since he's gotten here the idea that he has to kind of earn this. And he talked about, I think last week on some platform, about this idea that like he's not really even talking to his family much right now. He's just so deep, he's nose deep in the playbook and trying to kind of get acclimated. And he's like, his sole focus is football. Like, it's not like me saying that they're trying to make him earn it is something that he doesn't already know. And the fact that he's embracing that and has the right attitude about it, I think is a huge deal. So it's not a negative thing. But I think that was at least notable that he didn't take those reps yesterday. And for all we know, he was out there today and he did get some 11-on-11 work in. So I'm not trying to read into that too much, but I did think that was kind of interesting. I thought Joe Flacco, of all the quarterbacks, looked the best, but I also kind of expected that because he's the one who has like zero learning curve when it comes to the team and the offense and what they're trying to do right now, because he's been in this system before. A couple other things that stood out to me, though. I thought DeJuan Jones looked really, really good. He's finally healthy, recovering from the broken leg he suffered last year, and he was moving really, really well. His first step was really good. He was moving laterally very well. So there was a lot to like from DeJuan Jones, and I think there should be some excitement about seeing him try to earn that starting left tackle spot and maybe cement it for years to come. I also thought some of the defensive linemen stood out. Mason Graham made a couple nice plays, including swatting a pass down at the line of scrimmage when Dylan Gabriel was in doing 11-on-11 stuff. And I thought Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, the free agent defensive end that they signed, or linebacker that they signed, he had a few moments. One that he got yelled at for because he ran into Kenny Pickett, which obviously is a no-no. But yeah, like there were some things I thought stood out. I thought Harold Fannin Jr. showed really well as just kind of a pass catching wide receiver. I think it's pretty obvious he's going to have to bulk up a little bit in terms of being like a blocking tight end or an inline tight end, but they're going to use him as a weapon, and I think we're starting to see the early stages of that. And then the wide receiver rotation, you had Jerry Jeudy, you had Cedric Tillman, and without Deontay Johnson out there, you saw DeAndre Carter taking a lot of those slot reps. So it'll be interesting to see how they navigate that. The wide receiver group is one we still have a lot of questions about, but those are just some of the things that I sort of noticed in the first day of OTAs that we had a chance to watch.
So I know you wrote an article. Why do you think Quinshon Judkins will be the most impactful rookie?
For me, I think it just centers around what the identity of this team is going to be on offense again, going back to Kevin Stefanski's base offense, going back to what's made him successful in this league, and knowing like when he first got to Cleveland, those offenses were at their best when they had Nick Chubb, producing out of the backfield, and they had one of the best run games in football. This last year, the offense was historically bad. We know that. It's no secret. They couldn't move the ball up and down the field. They couldn't have lengthy drives. They couldn't score. And I think Judkins is going to sort of be at the focal point of, providing that spark for the offense and kind of helping keep them ahead of the sticks and oftentimes punching it in the end zone to finish off drives. I also think, too, when you have a quarterback situation, as we've talked about, that the Browns have, where you don't know who the main starter is going to be, you could see the starting job change hands a number of times this season. I think when you have a solid ground game and a frontline starting running back that you can fall back on, I think that means positive things and is a good thing for an offense. Like, that feels like it's going to be the identity of this team is their ability to run the football. They're getting back to that. And Judkins is going to be the first guy you see out there consistently on offense when it comes to the run game. I know he's going to split some time with Sampson. Sampson brings a little bit of a 1-2 punch alongside Quinshon to this offense, and I'm excited to see both of them and how they kind of get integrated into this offense along with Jerome Ford. But I do think Quinshon has the biggest opportunity with an offense that is still is trying to find and reclaim an identity that it lost last year to make a massive impact on this team from the jump, week one and beyond throughout the season. So I'm really looking forward to watching him play because I think he's going to be super important to what the Browns want to do to win football games.
Spencer German from 92.3 The Fan and Locked On Browns podcast, and I can step aside, take a quick time out. We will have more Browns. Stay with us.
Come back to Go Forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Spencer German from 92.3 The Fan. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, you guys, this is about Deshaun Watson failure in Cleveland. I think it really fell because of his availability. And coming off shoulder surgery last year, he was scared to put the ball into the outfield, and the shoulder injury affected his mental and his physical play. We all know that. And I wonder if it's done in Cleveland. I doubt it is, but he's rehabbing around the team a lot, so we'll see. But I just want to know what you guys think that did his shoulder injury play a factor in his play last year before he got hurt again. So let me know what you guys think of that. Go Browns, and you guys have a nice day.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Spencer, I'm sure it did, along with not playing for as long as he did. I know you've addressed this on the Locked On Browns podcast. Do you think he actually plays in 2025? He's got to show that he's rehabbing and he wants to. I just think if he wants to play in the NFL again, he has to show that he's rehabbing. I just don't know that it will be here.
Yeah, the Deshaun situation is interesting. Like I'm kind of over. I think it's more of a national narrative that's been spun of, well, hey, the Browns have 5 quarterbacks, not 4 quarterbacks, and these people are trying to sort of make Deshaun Watson part of the equation. And I get it. Like, he is here, he's on the team, he's going to rehab, and the timing, at least it sounds like, could be, at some point during the season he could be available. I just don't know, to your point, Dave, like, I don't know what the appetite is to get him or rush him back out there. Now, the hard thing to project here is how the Browns, navigate the legalities, if you will, of the players union, because if he's able to come back, they can't, hold him back and just say like, oh, well, he's not ready. Like, if he gets cleared by doctors, he's got to get back out there, or else the PA can file, some sort of suit against it. Like, they want to avoid all those things, which I think is why they're very much right now saying nothing, saying very little on that front, because they just don't know. Now, there is a scenario that could play out where, like, they get to the start of the regular season, they get to the end of training camp, and they decide, hey, he's not rehabbing or healing the way that we want. We're just going to place him on the IR from Jump Street, and then his season would obviously be over if he's placed on the IR before the season starts. So there's that route, and we'll see if that comes to fruition. But I'm as fascinated as everybody to see how they navigate this thing, because if he comes back into the equation, what do you do? I guess there's a world where he ends up being on the active roster. I don't think that he would just be thrust into the starting role. I would assume that they'd start all 4 of these guys, if they're all still here, over Deshaun Watson, and he would be a last resort type option. I just don't think. And listen, here's the thing. Like, is there a world where maybe he plays? Sure, because the last 2 years we've seen the Browns go through, a carousel of quarterbacks to get to the end of the regular season, and that could very well play out again. Who knows? But at the same time, I'm not betting on it, and I also think it changes nothing in the way of what his future is here in Cleveland. Whether he plays a handful of games, whether he plays one game, whether he doesn't play at all, I think this team is subscribed to the idea that when March, whatever it's going to be, 14th rolls around next year and the new league year begins, they will be designating him as a June 1st cut, and they'll get out from underneath this contract the best they can, eat money next year, eat money the year after that, and then be moving on. I think Jimmy Haslam's comments on it being a swing and a miss were pretty telling, and I think, I just think that ship has sailed, and everything they've done this offseason, from drafting 2 rookies to position themselves to potentially draft another quarterback next year with the 2 first-round picks, suggests that they are ready to close that door and move forward. And so that's the direction I think this thing is heading.
So again, I know you've written, you've talked about this on the Locked On Browns podcast. 2025 and David Njoku, is it his swan song? Is it still up for debate? I mean, if he plays well, if they play well, Kevin Stefanski, that 2 offensive system is pretty significant to him.
Yeah, no, I mean, the 12 personnel thing is massive for Stefanski, and we know he likes to do that. It's part of the reason why Harold Fannin Jr. is going to be super important to what this offense wants to do. I think he has a chance to really thrive, especially if somebody like Flacco maybe starts the season, because we know he is the reason David Njoku is a Pro Bowler 2 years ago, right? So I think there's certainly I think you should leave some room to believe that they would like to have David Njoku back for that reason alone, like a proven guy, and then a guy they're trying to sort of nurture into their future at that position. But I also think this is almost like a wait-and-see thing. I know they met with his representatives during the offseason. I think it was when they were down in Miami going to scout Cam Ward at his pro day. They had a meeting with David Njoku's representation. So maybe those conversations are about a potential extension, or what they're looking for before they give him a potential extension. I just think he has to have a good season. Last year was a step back for him after being a Pro Bowler. Injuries were certainly a factor there, but he has to prove that he can stay healthy. I thought he seemed like he was a step slower last year and just wasn't quite as explosive. And again, maybe that was just the injuries, but I just think he has to go out and kind of prove that even if he doesn't finish the season as a Pro Bowler, he has to prove that that player is at least still in there. And then I think that the Browns would probably try to lock him up long term. But right now, I'm kind of going into this year thinking it could be his last year unless he gets back to playing at the level that they hope he can.
Before I let you go real quick, what are you paying attention to when we're able to go back out to Berea Wednesday, next Wednesday?
Yeah, so I did pay a little more attention to, I think, the Flacco Pickett group yesterday. So if they're still doing the sort of simultaneous 7-on-7s, I hope to get over to the rookie side of things and watch those guys a little bit more. I will say this about Shedeur Sanders too. I thought that he looked like he'd already made some improvements to his mechanics, and so I think that's a good sign of what this time of year is all about. It's about learning. But I'll probably, switch in terms of my perspective on the quarterbacks and just kind of go get a different look. I want to see a little bit more of somebody like Carson Schlesinger and what he's able to do as kind of that rangy linebacker in coverage. And some of these things are hard to grasp this time of year. Again, it's not full padded practices. I'm also hopeful that somebody like Deontay Johnson is out there, because seeing him go and be part of this offense and see where he sort of fits in the wide receiver grouping, I think is going to be something to keep an eye on as we continue to navigate and wonder what that wide receiver room could look like at the start of the season. And then I do think the offensive line continues to be something that day to day I will be paying close attention to. I know I specifically talked about DeJuan Jones from yesterday, and I do think I'll still keep an eye on him. But just how are all those guys kind of looking? Cornelius Lucas was filling in on the right side for Jack Conklin, who isn't here for OTAs just yet. And so I want to see more of him. I want to watch what Zach Zinter looks like as the potential heir apparent to Joel Bitonio next year. So I think this time of year is a lot of taking in like how guys just look and move and feel. in certain positions, in certain roles, how young guys are maybe coming along, what they're learning along the way. It's less about like what the results of the plays are and more about like how guys seem to be taking to the offense and the experiences that they've already had in the NFL or they're about to have in the NFL. So definitely there's still a lot to enjoy and take in. And I also feel like this time of year is kind of the first sign that football is right around the corner, because not so long from now we'll be talking about training camp and preseason. So,
Spencer German, is always great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Spencer.
Absolutely, Dave. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Spencer German, make sure you check him out. 92.3 The Fan, Cleveland Browns on SI, also host of the Locked On Browns podcast. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We turn our attention to the Guardians when we return. Stay with us.
At the Ohio Lottery, we make Keno fun your way. So go on, pick your wager. Will it be $1, $2, $10, or more? Your call. Then it's as easy as picking up to 10 numbers. Use any inspiration you like. You can even tag on the booster for a chance to boost your winnings up to 10 times. Every few minutes across Ohio, 20 out of 80 possible numbers are drawn. And if enough of yours match, you win. Keno is always fun your way.
We turn our attention to the Guardians. 6 games behind the Tigers in the AL Central. A day off today, 3-game series against the Angels at Progressive coming up. Let's welcome in Paul Hoynes, Guardians beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Hoynes, 4 out of 7 against the Tigers and Dodgers, 2 best teams in baseball. What are your thoughts where the Guardians sit as we get ready for a 3-game series tomorrow?
David, it's a strange team right now. I thought, they really gained some momentum when they went to Detroit, took 3 out of 4. Then they come home and lose the first 2 to the Dodgers and, don't look real good doing it. And then all of a sudden they come back Wednesday and have that great comeback and get the win. I think they're just kind of hanging in there right now. They need something to really kind of just kick in the afterburner here, to me, because 6 games is 6 games. They had it down to 3 games. The Tigers lead over the weekend. Then it's in Detroit, just pushed it back to 6 as soon as Cleveland left town. So, they have to play winning baseball, and they're coming off that tough 13-day stretch where they played 12 games and they went 5-7, and you get swept in Cincinnati to start that trip, and that didn't help.
So the other thing is now Steven Kwan leaves the game, right wrist inflammation. Lane Thomas wasn't available, plantar fasciitis. What are the thoughts regarding Kwan and Thomas? I mean, those are 2 guys you're expecting to hit.
Yeah, definitely. I got the impression, at least from what Stephen Vogt had to say after the game on Wednesday, that Kwan's injury was more precautionary, that they were looking, that they wanted to take advantage of the Thursday off day just to give him as much rest as possible. But the Lane Thomas injury is an injury that has bothered him in St. Louis. It bothered him in Washington, and plantar fasciitis. It means you can't run. If you're an outfielder or a hitter, you have trouble moving around. And I don't know if that's an injury, an IL move or not, but I think that's probably the more serious of the 2. And we really haven't seen Thomas that much this year. He was supposed to be a big part of that lineup.
Yeah, and they have definitely missed him. Right field has been an issue, so let's. There's some names out there. Let's take a look. Chase DeLauder is up playing in Columbus, really just getting his season going. Had some fall games in the Arizona complex. But at AAA, he's 3 of 13, that home run for Chase DeLauder. Unable to stay healthy, has had foot problems, back problems, so hopefully he's beyond those and he's healthy. Another guy that is really hitting and has hit at every level is CJ Kefas. He's just 23 years old, and in his 3rd year in the Guardians system, getting his first taste at AAA, and he just continues to hit the ball well like he did at lower levels. He's hit 300 in his minor league career His first taste at AAA, as mentioned, 89 at-bats, 28 hits, 4 homers, 13 RBIs, 4 doubles, 2 triples. Kefas, again, a young guy, not heralded, but continues to hit at every level and when given the opportunity. So, Hoynes, they're not getting a lot of production out of the right field spot, whether it be Jhonkensy Noel or I guess Nolan Jones had a 3-hit game, so maybe that's coming. But what do you do if you're Steven Vogt relative to right field? Is it time to look down to Columbus?
I think it is, David. I think they'll probably be a little more patient than I would. But, I was kind of under the mistaken impression that, in the past, they've been really traditional and conservative in moving their players through the minor league system. But since MLB changed the rules, 2 or 3 years ago when they limited the number of teams, a minor league teams, a big league team can have limited the number of players you can have in the organization. They've been moving players a lot faster. And in that regard, I think Kefas might be the next guy up if they don't get any production out of right field. And the problem is, when Lane Thomas came off the IL, he was scheduled to play some games in right field, but now he could go right back on there. So they need some help in right field. I mean, like you said, Jhonkensy Noel, Nolan Jones are just not cutting it in right field. The Guardians right fielders have the worst batting average among all right field units, the position in Major League Baseball. I mean, they're getting, that's a black hole out there. They're getting nothing out of right field.
And I understand it's a defensive position. They're not getting anything offensively from the catchers really either. And I get it. You got to handle pitchers. You got to control the running game. But this offense is not built where you can have 2 of your 9 spots not producing.
Yeah, I've kind of been encouraged by the way Bo Naylor swung the bat lately. Thought he swung the bat well in Detroit. But obviously him and Austin Hedges have not been have not really produced offensively. But to me, Bo Naylor is the key to that. He has the pedigree. He's the number 1 pick. We've seen him hit in the past. It's right now it's too much hit and miss. They tried to move him up into the number 2 hole the last couple games. The first 2 games against the Dodgers, that didn't have great results. But I think the way he's swung the bat lately has been a bit encouraging to me.
So the other thing, I'm glad you bring up the number 2 hole. Every time I see Angel Martinez play, I want to see more of him. I think they're big about giving kids at bats. Put him between Kwan when he's healthy and Ramirez and let him figure out, because I think that kid can play. His instincts are good. You put him in center field, he plays well. You put him in the infield, he plays well. I don't know what more you want from Martinez.
Yeah, he's got to be in the lineup every day, David. And in a way he is. He's just not in one position. I'd like to see him play every day, be the everyday center fielder. If Thomas is healthy, move him to right field and take your chances. But Martinez in the number 2 spot, he's a switch hitter. He can go the other way. We saw the big home run last night, Wednesday against the Dodgers in the 8th inning. But really an exciting player. He's got a great arm from the outfield. He can run a little bit. He's from a baseball family. His dad played in the big leagues. So you've got a pretty good player right there. And let's not hide him. Let's put him out there, give him a regular spot, and just turn him loose.
I agree. The other one that, Slade Cecconi, that's the pitcher they acquired in the Josh Naylor trade. And I knew about him. I've been surprised. He has taken a step forward. He missed his turn with a minor injury. He was supposed to pitch coming up this weekend. What have you thought about how he's kind of fit in? And is it Carl Willis again that's kind of working his magic with Slade Cecconi?
Yeah, I think Cecconi has made 2 great starts for them. One against Cincinnati, one against Detroit. He wins the game against Detroit. Unfortunately, he missed Wednesday's game against the Dodgers with a groin strain, but he threw a bullpen session. He's ready to start Saturday against the Angels. I really, he is credited, Carl Willis and the coaching staff, with really helping him develop his cutter and his splitter. He knew he had to have something to go along with his fastball because it got hammered last year in Arizona. But just two encouraging starts, Dave, from this guy.
So the other thing that's encouraging, it's the beginning of the process, but Saturday in the Arizona complex, it will be Shane Bieber making a rehab start. It will be against Rookie League, but it is a start of a process. How important is that?
That's a huge step for him. The last time, the Guardians have a blueprint for this, with Matthew Boyd last year. Boyd was coming off Tommy John, just like Bieber is. Boyd was probably a month behind Bieber. So he signed in the end of June. He made, it took him, all of July to make some rehab starts, to make about 4 or 5 rehab starts. Then he made his big league debut, I believe, on August 13th. So I think that's, if all goes well with Bieber, that's the timetable we're probably looking at here. If he makes a start in the Arizona Complex League, then he makes a couple at AA, then he makes a couple more at AAA, and then we see where he is at July, maybe just before or just after the All-Star break.
Yep, and Matthew Boyd, to your point, continues to pitch really well with the Cubs. Got I think it was 30-some million for 2 years, so good for him. When you look at the Guardians, they kind of seem to be, and we alluded to it, they can't quite get it jump-started like they need to cut into that lead.
Yeah, I'm encouraged by the way the bullpen has kind of come around a little bit. Really like the way Emmanuel Clase is pitching now. It looks like he's over that hiccup early in the season. But offensively, they've got to do a little more to produce runs. That's always been a concern of mine. And the starting pitching, they've had like a string of about 25 to 30 starts where they've been decent. They haven't been great, but they've been usually getting to the 5th inning, 6th inning, and giving them a chance to win. So that's encouraging, but they need to get everybody pulling on the same end of the rope here, and it's been a little scattered, for the first 2 months of the season.
Paul Hoynes, Guardians beat reporter, plain dealer, cleveland.com. Is always great stuff. Thanks so much, Hoynes. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.
Paul Hoynes, make sure you check him out. Great Guardians coverage. He is the Guardians beat reporter for the plain dealer and cleveland.com. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.